Good afternoon, everyone. It's about 1 minute till 2 p.m. We'll get started in just about 60 seconds. Just as a reminder, the meeting is being recorded, and so you should see that on your laptop if you are using the video link. All right. Hello again. It's 2 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started with today's meeting. My name is LaShawn Douglas. I am with DCHA out of the Office of the Executive Director. As a reminder, today we are having a meeting with the residents and stakeholders from Judiciary House. This is our first of 2 meetings that will take place today. This is to talk about an open discussion to talk about the converting of Judiciary House to public housing to Section 8, public housing, excuse me, to Section 8 rental assistance under the RAD program. As I mentioned a few moments ago, the WebEx is going to be recorded, and then we will have the link available following the meeting to post for folks on our website for folks to review. As of right now, I've muted everyone's line. So as you come in, the line will be muted. However, at the end of the presentations, we will open up the line for questions and comments. I just want to welcome everyone, from all of the residents to the meeting, and thank you all of DCHA staff who is on the call as well. And we can go ahead and get started. We're going to open up the floor with Jose and Alex, and I believe Jose is going to share his screen, and you will hear from them next. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alex Morris. I'm the Chief of Design and Construction at the DC Housing Authority. I'm going to be running through a presentation of our proposal for the conversion of Judiciary House using the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program from public housing to project-based Section 8, or what's called Housing Choice Vouchers. With me is Jose Souza. Jose is our Director of Public Affairs and Communications. We also have a representative of the Office of Resident Services and a representative of the mobility team to talk about resident relocation. So first off the bat, the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. Why would we apply for HUD's RAD program? Number one, the federal government does not provide enough funding for us to make improvements that residents of public housing deserve to bring the buildings up to a full state of good repair. And RAD is an option to obtain a more sustainable funding source public property by converting to Section 8 from current Section 9 public housing contract. Just as a reminder, DCHA right now that they need $2.3 billion.
Hello?
Fully
Hello?
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 Hello? Yes, hello. I'm here. Hello, this is Colin Murray, 461 8th Street, Northwest Apartment 425, Washington, D.C., zip code 200,000.
Ma'am,
I think they call that building the Judiciary House.
Thank you so much. We are in the middle of our presentation. If you all could just be so kind and mute your phones, we will open up the line at the end for questions and comments.
Okay, what you want me to do?
I'm going to go ahead and mute all participants.
I'm not understanding you.
We're going to turn off.
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. If just hold for one moment, we are going to mute the line and then we're going to continue on with the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. Yes. Yes, I'm sorry.
LaShawn, would you like me to continue?
Yes, it's okay to continue.
Okay. RAD is a HUD-based program that allows DCHA to fund major building improvements and stabilize federal funding for the future, with no resident displacement, no loss of housing benefits, and no change in the rent calculation of 30% of your income, unless you're currently paying a flat or ceiling rent, and we can explain more about that later in the presentation. As I stated, RAD stands for the Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. It's a program that HUD created about 20 years ago as a response to fill the growing gap between decreasing federal funding and increasing capital needs of public housing units. Since federal funding is often not enough to provide for the high upkeep costs of existing properties, RAD allows a public housing authority to move away from federal annual contributions contracts, which are the public housing subsidy, to a Section 8 housing choice voucher program type assistance. This makes it possible to obtain funding from private and alternative sources to help supplement what money we get from HUD to make improvements to the building. RAD allows public housing authorities to work with partners who want to invest in building improvements. This could give DCHA the opportunity to borrow money for improvements, seek bond issuance for improvements, work with philanthropic partners, and take on development partners. I just want to point out at this point, one of my colleagues has reminded me that it hasn't been 20 years for the RAD program. The RAD program was created by HUD in 2012, so it's been about 8 years, not 20. I misspoke. Go ahead and advance the slide, please. Okay, so what are we going to plan to do with RAD? Our scope of work for a RAD conversion can include anything, including the following: apartment renovations to kitchens, bathrooms, and finishes, updating building systems like electrical, plumbing, fire, mechanical, heating and air conditioning, making energy efficiency improvements to the buildings, replacing windows, roofs, and building exteriors, enhancing community spaces, and improving building security. Now, at Judiciary, and we're going to get into this in a second, we already have a plan in place. We're using DC Council money to already do work at Judiciary House, and I'll talk about that in a second. But we have also the ability under RAD to fund further future improvements, and we'll be looking for resident feedback from residents of Judiciary House on how to spend that future resource on further building improvements. I would like to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing at Judiciary House. So at Judiciary House, of course, is in Ward 2. It has a total unit count of 271 units combined between studio, 1-bedroom, and 2-bedroom apartments, a very small number of 2-bedroom units, and it has a large senior population. Next slide, please. Our plan for Judiciary House involves essentially 2 phases. The first one is to spend what's called R&M dollars. That's the DC Council Repair and Maintenance Fund, and then do a RAD conversion. And so right now we're doing rehabilitation on Judiciary House to the tune of something north of $15 million, including replacing the fire alarm system in 2018. We are currently working on replacing the roof. It's about a $900,000 cost. We're making repairs to the parking garage of almost $1 million. We are about to start a replacement program for all of the windows on the building. So all the exterior windows will be replaced starting this year. That project will take approximately a year to finish for about $1.55 million. We're going to be doing comprehensive repairs to the balconies. There's a lot of cracking and spalling concrete and loose metal on the balconies. We're going to be spending almost $3 million on that. And we're also going to be doing a full rehabilitation of what we think is probably 118 out of the 271 units for a total of $12.3 million. That some of that work, as I said, the roofing and the garage are currently underway with a completion in the near future before the end of the summer. The balcony repair work is slated to start very shortly. We have a kickoff meeting with the contractor next week. And the replacement of windows and the full rehab of the 118 units will be starting in the next month. Next slide. So the next question is, what are my rights as a resident under RAD? You have the guaranteed right to return to your unit with no rescreening. There will be full relocation assistance provided to you if you need to relocate. A resident rent will be based upon 30% of adjusted income, and resident councils will be funded in the same way they're currently funded under public housing. Now I'd like to turn it over to Deborah Jackson to talk about the relocation process.
I think Katrina is on the line and she'll be taking over. If she's not, I will go ahead and proceed.
My apologies. Katrina will be taking over. Thank you. Is Katrina on the phone?
I'm not sure. I'll go ahead and take over. So the relocation process is DC Housing Authority relocation team works in partnership with residents about future development and relocation plans, which include information informing residents of phasing and scheduled move dates. So you guys probably have gotten in contact in phase one, the individuals who have been contacted by Katrina and the mobility team about the relocation in phase one. Some of you may have. After that, after renovation schedules are finalized and impacted residents have been informed, DCHA's relocation team completes relocation surveys to assess special needs and circumstances. Number 3, DCHA's relocation team will work with each household to prepare for relocation, provide necessary packing materials, and notify households of upcoming move dates. We will provide all packing materials and, if need be, packing assistance. Number 4, DCHA relocation team will be present on the day of your move to supervise activity and ensure all relocation needs are satisfied. So you will not be going through this alone. The relocation team will be there from the beginning to the end to make it a very seamless transition. Number 5, DCHA relocation team will hire a qualified moving company to move families. Services include moving belongings, dismantling and reassembling all furniture, excuse me, and packing assistance if needed. So at the time of your survey, we will ask you specific questions pertaining to your household and the items that you may have in your household, whether it be a hospital bed or those type of equipment that we might need to get specialized individuals to come break down the bed and then, of course, mantle it again in your new unit. And last, DCHA relocation team will relocate families from current units to temporary or permanent units where it's applicable, pay all relocation costs, and of course, throughout the whole entire process, if the relocation is temporary, we will stay in touch with the families to let you guys know the process, where we are in the process, and you will have all of our contact information. So if there's ever any questions or concerns, we will be there from start to finish, like I had said before, and our team will always be there to answer questions.
Next, I'd like someone from the Office of Resident Services to address the Resident Services Plan.
Sure thing. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Fisher, and I am the Family Self-Sufficiency Manager working within the Office of Resident Services. Like my colleague, Deborah Jackson just mentioned, all the assistance that the relocation team will provide. I would say that the Office of Resident Services staff will work in conjunction with that team as they go about working with you, assessing needs, they communicate with the Office of Resident Services, and more specifically, in this case, the Community Navigator. And for those that are unaware of what the role of the Community Navigator is, think of this individual as the liaison or the link between property management, the Office of Resident Services, and the different sections that we offer, whether it's workforce, financial literacy, home ownership opportunities, or linking other service providers, whether they're on the property or external, to the residents in need of that particular service. In this case, besides the Community Navigator, the Office of Resident Services also has a number of partnerships, like I mentioned, with various providers such as credit counselors in the event that you are relocated and need of assistance that can lift you up with financial literacy, assistance with credit counseling to go ahead and better position yourself. You need to go ahead and rent on the open market, or just may assess as other needs that you deem worthy for future considerations. At the conclusion of this presentation, I believe the contact information for the Community Navigator, in this case, that individual's name is Dorothy Freeman Gavin, will be shared with the community, so that in case you have any additional questions or follow-up, feel free to go ahead and circle back with Ms. Freeman Gavin to go ahead and get the answers to your particular questions. With that, I thank you all for your time.
Next slide, please. LaShawn, or Jose, if you could advance the slide. So prior to submitting an application for RAD to HUD, DCHA provides residents with a resident information notice. You should be all in possession of a resident information notice by now if you're a resident of Judiciary House. This notice conveys general written information on potential project plans and basic resident rights under RAD. DCHA conducts at least 2 resident meetings. The 2 meetings today, one at 2 o'clock today that you're at now, and the other one at 6 o'clock, represent one of those 2 meetings. There will be a second round of meetings in August to supplement this information and to capture any questions that we can't answer at this meeting. Additional meetings may be necessary if plans change or if the Public Housing Authority requires extensions. So we will continually keep you informed. If we need to do another round of meetings, we will do that. And we will continue to communicate with you as this process unfolds. DCHA must secure Board of Commissioners approval to submit a RAD application to HUD. DCHA will submit to HUD a written summary of all resident comments and the DCHA responses to comments received. What that means is if you ask a question at the meeting today or tonight or at a future meeting, that question and our answer to it will be summarized in a summary book to HUD along with the application. DCHA will ensure effective communication with persons with disabilities and language barriers. This means making meetings accessible to various types of disabilities. And DCHA also complies with the DC language access laws. Next. Currently, we have multiple projects in our plan for RAD conversion in our transformation plan. One of them is already underway. We refer to it as Melvo for the first letters of each of the 5 sites: Montana Terrace, Elvins Road, Lincoln Road, the Villager, and Ontario Road. Judiciary House, which we're talking about today. The Kelly Miller and LaDroit projects. A portion of Kelly Miller, known as the townhouses, and the LaDroit Senior Building are proposed for RAD conversion. Potomac Gardens, the family and senior high-rise buildings, are proposed for RAD conversion. Langston Dwellings, and portions of Stoddard Terrace and Benning Terrace. Next slide. So for next steps, what can you expect from us? Residents will receive written answers to questions posed before and at this meeting. Residents will receive an additional phone call and flyer about our next meeting in August. There's an email address, transformationplan@dchousing.org, that will provide additional information. If you want to pose a question, we can respond that way. And if you call area code 202-996-8526 with RAD or Transformation Plan inquiries, we can respond via phone as well. We look forward to working with all of our residents on this important initiative. Thank you very much for your time and patience. And now I think we can turn it back to LaShawn, and she can open up the meeting for questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, Ron, and thank you, Deborah, for your presentation. And yes, as Alex mentioned, we will open the floor now for questions and comments. We did not have any comments or questions come in via the Transformation Plan email or via the voicemail box as of yet. So we will just address those questions from you all that are on the phone or on the laptop. So I will go ahead and unmute the line. If you are on the phone, if you could just state your name, and then once you are addressed, then we can go ahead and have your question answered. If you are on a laptop and able to type your question in the chat, you can also have that option, and we will read your question from the chat. So with that, I will go ahead and unmute.
Okay. Carletta, Murray, Murray. I live at the Judiciary House, 461 H Street, the letter H Street Northwest, apartment 425, Washington, D.C., zip code 2001. Yes, I do have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Murray.
Yes, what I'm trying to ask now, I try to make them short so I know you have other people. Okay, now I'm speaking to you now at 2 o'clock. Do I need to call back at 6?
No, the 6 o'clock meeting will be this exact replication of this meeting. So it's just to have.
I don't need to call you back at 6 o'clock.
No, ma'am.
You do not, you wish that you are not required to do that.
No. Okay, so since I'm speaking to you now, I don't need to call at 6.
Right.
Right.
Okay, now my next question is, okay, do you know when they're going to start to work on Judiciary House, or what's going on, or when the people got to move, or when they're going to renovate the people?
I'll take that. This is Alex Morris again. I'm with the Office of Capital Programs.
I can't hardly hear you. What'd you say, sir?
I'm with the Office of Capital Programs. My name is Alex. We're currently working on the roof at Judiciary House and replacing the roof. And we're also renovating the garage, the parking garage.
Okay, so when will y'all start on the other work?
Okay, so the units, which you would be most interested in.
Reason why I ask, because I need to know, do I need to be home? I have quite a few doctor's appointments. Yeah. So I just wanted to know, do I need to be home?
Your unit.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
Yeah, your unit 425 will not be working in the next year. So you're gonna.
I don't have to be home.
And you don't have to worry about any relocation within the next year.
Yeah, I live in apartment 425. Reason why I'm asking, because I'm under the doctor's care and I have quite a few doctor's appointments. So I'm normally out during the day, but I just wanted to know, did I need to be home for y'all to do this work?
When we do work inside of your unit.
I can't hear you again. Say that again.
Mute the other lines, please. Thank you. In answer to your question, when we do the work on your unit, it'll take about 6 months to finish the work. You will be living in another unit within the building. We're going to make units ready for folks to move into a temporary unit in the building, and then you can move back when the unit is fixed. Your unit 425 is not part of phase 1. Phase 1 is the units consisting of a last number in the digit on the number of your apartment. If it's 07, 08, or 09, you're in the first phase. The residents who are in the first phase have already been notified, and many of them have already moved into temporary apartments. The phase 1 work we expect will start sometime in the month of August. In your unit 425, we don't expect to get to you for at least about a year. So I don't think you have anything to be too concerned with in the immediate future. One other thing I'd like to point out, there was a question from one of our other colleagues on the line about, do you get to always move back to your same unit? Generally, yes. At the Judiciary House, the plan is generally everyone will go into a temporary unit and then move back to the exact same unit you already had. However, when we do a tier of units, there will be additional vacant units that were already vacant in that tier that will be available as fully renovated units. And as those become available, you may wish to move directly from your unit into a brand new unit that's been fully fixed. And that would allow someone to move only once. So there will be opportunities for that as we start to go through the building. And I would say that you should talk with Mr. Poles, your property manager, and the mobility team at the appropriate time if that's something you're interested in doing. Did I answer your question?
Good morning, man. Good morning. I know you got the money, man. I'm playing, right?
Ms. Murray.
Is someone asking a question? My name is George Kennard. Is someone asking a question?
One moment, Ms. Kennard. I'm sorry, one moment, Ms. Kennard. Ms. Murray, your question been answered?
I'm still here, baby. Murray's still here.
Okay. So, are your questions complete, Ms. Murray?
I'm still here.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the next question. I think I heard Ms. Kennard.
Okay, hi. This is Ms. Kennard from the Judiciary House. And
Cut off. Hello?
there's some people talking. I can't hear.
Okay, one second, please. I'm unable to mute the lines of the callers. So if everyone could just please hold their questions or their comments.
Okay. My question is, I'm on the second phase of the move, and the first phase was hideous. I have to say that. I think Ms. Jeter did an excellent job by herself trying to get these people organized and moved. You all sent out letters, but the apartments that you moved these people in did not have a, yes.
What?
Someone's calling me, yes.
Yes, I'm come time. You come back later, because I'm on the phone with housing.
Okay, everybody in Judiciary House, y'all gonna have to be quiet so we can hear each other. Put your phone on mute if you're talking to other people. Come on now.
Ms. Kennard?
I'm on a call.
It's too much noise. I can't
All right,
hear.
can we move on to the next question?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Gloria James.
Okay, wait a minute, Ms. James. Let me finish. This Joyce, it's the last move was sort of not right. They moved those people. Those people didn't have stoves, refrigerators. They didn't have rods in their units to hang their clothes. It was really, really bad. So what are you all going to do to make sure that the move is good for the people? Even the moving companies, they were all over the place. They threw the people's stuff in their apartment, and that was not right. You all are sitting here telling us that we're going to have a perfect move, the apartments are going to be ready, and I can tell you that they were not ready. The residents were calling me like water. And I go up there to look, the lady didn't have a refrigerator, somebody didn't have a stove, and some people still do not have blinds in their apartments. So how can you all make this better on the next move? Hello?
Until next year.
Okay. Can someone, who will be taking that?
Hello?
DCHI.
Question? Mr. Poles?
Yes, so during phase one of the project, our vacant unit team was working to complete all the units. The vacant unit team was pulled from Judiciary to focus on the project down at 1133. Looking back in hindsight, initially, when I was speaking with Ivor Carrington, I felt confident that given the time before the relocations would begin, I felt confident that we would be able to, the team that I had working here would be able to make the necessary repairs and get everything ready for the residents. Ms. Kennard feel as if the move was hideous. If you speak with Ms. Katrina Jeter, it's hard for me to say that it was not hideous, because if Ms. Kennard feels that it was hideous, then it was hideous.
Mr. Pose, I'm going to cut Mr. Pose off. I spoke with Ms. Jeter. She said that was not their fault. A couple of those apartments were ready, because the 115, the 515 that I looked at, and I have a witness that went up there with me, there was nothing wrong with that apartment. There was not gray tape on the walls. But when the lady moved in, Ms. Parker moved in, and she called me up there, this lady has holes in her wall and gray tape up there. That apartment was not like that when I looked at it a couple of months ago.
And so, Ms. Kennard, no one was inside the unit between the time that I initially showed that unit to you and the time that Ms. Parker moved in. So there being tape on the wall, because I know you looked at that unit very thoroughly.
Yes,
and
I
at
did.
the time, yes, and at the time that you looked at that unit, there was, what is your opinion? How did you feel about the way the unit looked? Because know this,
when I looked at the unit was clean. It was nice. I was like, I'm ready to go. This is where I want to move. Oh, I like this. I can put this here. That's how I was. And we looked at the bedroom, the living room, the bathroom, and it was not gray tape on the walls above the air conditioning system. But not only that unit, I looked at 111. 111 had a stove, garbage disposal, dishwasher, because you told me it was partially handicapped. So I couldn't move in that one because it was for a handicapped person. It was partially handicapped. Those units were in excellent condition. What happened between then and the move? You have to answer that, Mr. Pose, because I know and you know that those units were in perfect condition.
Right. So what I'm saying is this: between the time that you saw those units and the time that the residents moved in, there was no activity taking place in any of those units. So again, I didn't see with my own eyes the claims of Ms. Parker and 515 about the tape being on the wall. All I know is what she said. But what I'm saying is, from the time that I showed you 515, you were very satisfied with that apartment. And then when Ms. Parker moved in it, and know this, that no one, because this is a vacant unit, so no one had gone inside that unit to do anything from the time that I showed it to you to the time that Ms. Parker took possession. So I'm bewildered at the fact that it's now tape on the walls inside this unit, because you were going to take that. You were very pleased, Ms. Kennard, with that unit. And
yes,
so now the resident is moving in that unit, and all of a sudden now the unit is in disrepair. It's tape all over the walls. And again, ultimately, as the housing manager, it's going to fall on me. I'll be accountable for the fact that the unit was not to the expectation of the resident.
But you know what, Mr. Pose, I'm going to take you off of that, because I don't know what happened, but those guys that were doing the units, those units were complete, 119, 111, 515. Those units were in excellent condition. This is the baffling question. And how are they missing a stove, a garbage disposal, a refrigerator, no rods to hang their clothes up, look like somebody's been in the bathtub in 319, nobody had blinds on their windows, when all of that stuff basically was put there. So I think DC RAD should come out and do an inspection before they move those people in those units, because I know, Mr. Pose, that it was done. And they need to come out and do an inspection. Also, because it's a COVID virus going on, they should have sent the CDC out to clean those units, just the units, not the whole building that the people was going to move in. Because as you know, we've had a couple of cases here. So who knows if somebody got it and not telling anybody. So before you send somebody to that unit or before you all move them in, you all should clean it down. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open the line for additional questions.
This is Gloria James.
Sorry, I
Good
heard
morning. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Anthony Pose.
Hello?
Yeah, this is Miss Murray.
This is John Taylor. I'm online now.
Okay, let's go with John Taylor, please. I'm going to mute everyone's line. Mr. Taylor?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yes.
This is Miss Murray. I've been trying to say something.
Okay, one moment, Miss Murray. That's Mr. Taylor has his question. Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Okay, one moment. You okay, go ahead, Mr. Taylor. Mr. Taylor?
Break it up. Can you hear
Mr.
me?
Taylor?
Yes, I'm saying, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
You can ask your question.
Huh? I can't hear you.
You can ask your
I was wanting to know was I online right. Trying to get somebody. Well, the unit that I moved in.
oh my God.
Hello, LaShawn.
I'm trying to unmute Mr. Taylor's line. Give me
Okay.
one moment.
Sean, I think he dropped off. Why
I
don't you
think he dropped off as well. I don't see his line on here any longer.
go to the next one?
Okay. I'm gonna unmute, and if you could say your name and wait to be acknowledged, please.
Gloria James.
All right, Ms. James. One moment. James, you can go with your question.
I have several questions. Number one, what is the mission for the RAD rental assistance stimulation?
Okay. Ms. James, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Can you repeat your question?
What is the mission for RAD rental assistance demonstration program for Judiciary House?
I can take that. When you say the mission, are you referring specifically to it for Judiciary or just the general mission of the RAD program?
For Judiciary House.
Okay. The purpose of doing RAD with Judiciary House is to provide us with a way to fund improvements to the building and to stabilize our operating expenses for the building so that we can continue to operate it in a state of good repair in the future. We want to put it in a state of good repair, fix what's going on at the Judiciary House, and then keep it that way. And what RAD allows us to do is it allows us to tap into a more stable set of funding from HUD through the Housing Choice Voucher Program. So the building will operate like a voucher building as opposed to a public housing building. But your rights and what, you know, the way it operates for you will not be different under that system. We'll continue to manage it as DCHA. Your rent won't change unless you're paying a flat rent. And it'll operate just like public housing, but we'll be able to tap into more stable funding. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Okay. So now, what rental programs are currently available for Judiciary House new occupancies that want to apply and move in?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
What program, being that you're trying to implement, these fundings are coming from HUD, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So what programs outside of the HUD monies that you all are trying to acquire, what programs are already in place for judiciary funding?
Oh, well, so we've received allocations of council funds last year and this year. We have a total of almost $40 million in council funds, and about half of that is being allocated to Judiciary House to do repairs at the roof, the parking garage, repair the balconies, replace the exterior windows, and do unit renovations in phases. Does that answer your question? So we're doing work now at Judiciary House, and we will continue to do work at Judiciary House to fix the conditions at that building over the next couple of years.
Okay, with this capital monies that's allocated already to Judiciary House, who is monitoring those funds? Because the parking garage, the basement parking garage and the back parking garage has been dug up and replaced and dug up and replaced. They're spending excess money. Nobody's monitoring these folks. The roof has been repaired. They've put in extra new generators or something. And nobody's really monitoring our funds for what's allocated from capital. So who from HUD and DC Housing is responsible, as well as the property manager, is following up on our funds to make sure they were done within a timely manner and not wasted time and money?
I'll take that. We are repairing the parking garage. You're probably seeing a lot of activity out there in the alley, but that work is going to be completed within the month of August, and that parking garage and the alley itself will be repaved. The parking garage under the building will be painted and relit, and there's substantial work going on there. There's about approximately $1 million worth of work in the garage, and that work has taken approximately 5 months, which is not unusual for that level of work. We needed to do work on the concrete, paint, and relight the entire space. We have DCHA staff out there every day as part of our inspection crew, monitoring the progress of the work. And I think Mr. Poles can attest to the fact that there's been, always issues, of course, with construction, but there's been very minimal issues with that project. Similar with the roof. The roof got done fairly quickly. We finished the roof membrane, and now we're working on the coping around the walls. And that work should also be completed within the month of July, if not first week of August.
Okay. The next question. How will the RAD rental, I'm just say RAD for rental assistance. Okay. How will the RAD at Judiciary House benefit the residents currently residing here?
The way it will benefit you is you will continue to have the same rules for living in the building, but we will be able to use a recurring stream of funds every year to do recurring capital improvements and other upgrades at the building, so the building stays in a state of good repair. It's going to be maintained better over the next 20 years through RAD than it can be under public housing. That's how you'll benefit.
Okay. What is the new versus the old effect of the RAD program to be implemented here? What would be the new versus the old effects? What would be different?
The only thing I can think of, and I'd ask the rest of the group to chime in, the only thing I could think of under RAD conversion that would be different is if you were paying a flat rent, your rent would be adjusted over a couple of years to a 30% of income rent. Your rent might go up under that situation, but if you're already paying 30% of your income, your rent won't change. And so other than that, I can't think of another way in which your life or the way you live in the building would change under RAD.
Okay. What are the short-term and long-term goals for Judiciary House with this RAD program, or are there any?
The RAD program, in order to convert a building with HUD through RAD, it takes about 2 years to get to a closing where the building converts. So if we put this project in as an application in September, it'll take about 2 years to get to what they call a closing, which means that the building converts from public housing to housing choice vouchers. And so the short-term plan for the building is to continue spending the council funds that they were very that we were fortunate to receive from them, to continue making improvements to the units, finish the roof, finish the garage, replace the windows in all the units, and fix the balconies. And the longer term plan is to convert the building to RAD, through RAD, to a housing choice voucher program. When we do that, we will be able to take out a loan on the property value, to do further improvements. And one of the things that we'd like to engage with you and your fellow residents about is, what further improvements would you like to see beyond what we're already planning? Fixing units and doing the roof. What else would you like us to do? We've talked about making improvements to the lobby, reconfiguring the security desk and doing improvements in the lobby area. We've talked about working in the basement to maybe improve some of the spaces in the basement. We're open to suggestions from you and your leadership about what else you'd like us to try to do through the RAD program to further improve the building. And if you have any suggestions, or anyone else has any suggestions on the phone, please feel free to say so.
Well, I know we can use the intercom system,
okay,
for the rear, and cameras in the basement, a new or improved monitoring system at the front desk. We need new security doors. I see someone has broke the garage system, you know, where we used to key in.
Okay.
We had an accident in the building, so we're going to need the checkout foundation. To check out, so when the water runs down, I know in the basement, it's sealed off. So if we have a flood, we don't have no real drainage down there in some of the rooms. These are some things I've noticed. I don't know what other residents, they may have other things.
Okay.
But I know when we have floods, some of the, I'm going to say pockets, so to speak, the foundation is sealed in where the water can't drain out nowhere, so that leaves wasted water, and if they have a lot of leaves are all down there. Thanks to the property management, he did have our housing people come and sweep the leaves out of there. I know it's part of upkeep, but we need to put some kind of drainage in to minimize the water. Say if we have a heavy snow, that water is just going to fill up and run into our basement.
Right. I'm recalling.
That's just a few of things that I've noticed.
Thank you very much. I'm recalling a couple of weeks ago, I think you're referring to, there was water coming in through a basement door into the boiler room. And the problem was that the drain was clogged. There's a drain in the stairway outside that door that was supposed to drain that water before it got through the door, but it filled up and it overflowed. And I think that happened maybe 2-3 weeks ago, as I recall.
Well, I did notice parking in the garage. We used to have water holes right there where I used to park. but someone has sealed that off and closed that water chute off. So now the structure of the water chute could be a problem.
I know we are adding new drainage as part of the garage work, and I think that it's designed to take care of all the drainage issues in the garage. So I'm hoping that it works very well when the garage is finished, and you will see the results of that when you get to see the finished garage in August.
Okay, what about the water that comes down along the side of the building in the basement? In the community room, we have windows. They are sealed off. No drainage is down in there for those waters and debris that may fly down there. It's just stuck. So what can be done about that?
I don't know. I'm making note of it. I think we need to investigate what's wrong there. Those window wells should have drainage. I don't know if they do or not. It may be working. It may be plugged. I'll talk with maintenance staff after the call and find out.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else have any improvements that they want to, before I go to the next question. Okay, then I'll move on to the next question.
I have everyone muted. So yes, please go on to the next question.
Please, go ahead.
Okay. For clarification, you mentioned the RAD program and the DC housing must meet. Did you say board approval or residential board approval?
This is the Board of Commissioners. Before we can submit a RAD conversion application to HUD for consideration, it has to be approved by the Board of Commissioners in a vote.
Now, what if the residents disagree with this Section 8 program? Our input in account, do we have a say?
Yes, you have a say on this call. We've noted the fact that you have an issue. Do you have an issue with the Section 8 program?
Do I personally?
Yeah.
Are you asking me as a resident, do I personally?
Yes.
Yes, I would have an issue with it because it will open up the door for other buyers to buy our property. And that's not what we want.
How would it do that?
Judiciary House, from my understanding, Judiciary House is a marketable property.
Yeah.
And the programs that we have here, you already have rental assistance programs living in here. So why are you trying to accumulate through HUD, to which you already get funds for rental assistance? So why are you trying to implement another program that is supposedly be the same program to tell the residents that it's for fundings to fix up the building?
Well, that is what we're doing. We're fixing the building. I think your question is, if we convert through RAD into project-based Section 8, could we then sell the building to somebody else? I can tell you that it is not our intention to do that. It's never been our intention to do that. I don't know if there's been talk about that happening, but I know of no plan to do anything of the sort.
Well, me personally, I say leave it the way it is because you already get Section 8 money. You already get money funding from HUD from Section 8. So why go in and do some other kind of rental assistance, whatever you all are calling this program, when we get money? You're saying more monies. We need to allocate and make use of the monies that we have that's already allocated to Judiciary House before we start going in, opening up the doors for other buyers to come in and take our properties away from us.
So let me reiterate, there's no plan to sell Judiciary House. I don't know where that idea came from, but there is no plan to do that. The purpose of converting the building, you're correct. We do get money for housing choice vouchers, but that money is currently allocated to residents living in private housing in the district. It's not allocated to our residents. What we're talking about with RAD is converting Judiciary House from a public housing subsidy to a housing choice voucher subsidy. DCHA will still own and manage the building, and the way we operate the building will not change from the way it currently operates, other than the fact that the housing choice voucher program, generally speaking, has been more stable from year to year in terms of annual funding than the public housing program. HUD has been shaving away percent by percent off of the public housing subsidy program for 20 or 30 years. And the housing choice voucher program has stayed relatively stable year to year. And so we can count on a more stable, sustainable funding source for maintaining the building. And that's why we're proposing to do this.
So for clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between housing choice and public housing vouchers?
A public housing voucher is housing choice voucher. I think what you may be referring to, and I'm guessing, is if someone moves out of public housing and gets a voucher, they get either a project-based or a resident tenant-based voucher. The program we're talking about for Judiciary House is to project-base the vouchers. They would be based at Judiciary House. And so the subsidy for the building would change from public housing to housing choice vouchers, but the building would still operate as public housing. Does that make sense?
No, it does not, because you're contradicting yourself in what I'm asking.
Okay.
So, okay, can I get a phone number or contact number that I can speak to someone? Because I'm on the phone. I was trying to get on where I could be seen and I could see who's there, but I was having difficulty. So I would like to get on. I'm going to come back on 6 o'clock, but I'll table this until I can get some more clarification, because you did not answer my question. And you're seeking same funds from HUD. All of this money is coming from HUD, from my understanding, and I stand to be corrected. So if you're saying that Judiciary House is already under HUD receiving public housing vouchers as well, you're trying to implement a RAD program so that we can get more money from HUD to improve the property value. And then you're saying we have housing choice vouchers here at Judiciary House as well, and you're receiving money from HUD. Why are you still implementing more money from HUD for a rental assistance just for more money?
Alex, can I step in here for a second?
Please, please.
One of the things that I think we need to make sure folks understand is that while there was investment from the council on dollars for improvements, it wasn't just for properties at Judiciary. It was for several properties or inventory. The money that we receive for Judiciary is sufficient to fund phase 1 and phase 2 of improvements. It is not sufficient to fund phase 3 and phase 4. That is the reason why we are pursuing RAD dollars in order to be able to fund phases 3 and 4. The current money that we have can handle half of the conversions necessary in the building. The good news about RAD is it gives us the option to pursue and unlock those funds to be able to finish the entire building. That's the reason why we're pursuing RAD at Judiciary, and that's why we have to pursue this avenue. The current funding we have is not sufficient to cover the whole building. You'll recall the money that's coming from council is directed to us for projects that we have in the pipeline. We have enough to handle, like I said, 50% of what we can do there. The other half of the money does have to come from a different source, and RAD is the source for which we can tap in for those dollars. Alex, do you want to elaborate on that?
No, I think you've said it.
Okay, that better cleared it for me. So now what is the deadline for implementing our dollars from HUD, or is there a deadline to get this RAD money?
I had said earlier that it takes about 2 years to close on a RAD conversion from the date you apply. So the subsidy would change from public housing to housing choice vouchers in approximately 2 years from the date we apply.
And in the interest of time, and I know we have several folks on the phone that have other questions, would it be okay if we just give you a call back? I do have your number from where we spoke earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for your questions and comments. I'm going to go ahead and unmute the line again, and if you could state your name and then wait to be recognized, then we can hear your question.
Janet Washington, apartment 1018.
Mr. Washington?
Nobody agrees with motherfucker trying to help you.
Mr. Washington?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, one moment. Let me mute the lines. Then you can. Okay.
How you doing?
Okay, is this Mr. Washington?
He out of the circle, can't get back in. He definitely can't get back in. You heard himself. You just take care of yourself. I'm just getting back in town, so you know.
Wait, line. One moment.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Washington.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom stays in 1018. I'm calling on her behalf because she's visually impaired. I just have one question.
Okay.
She stays in apartment 1018. Is she scheduled for phase 1 or phase 2?
(1018) is not scheduled for either phase 1 or 2. It's a later project. Did that answer your question?
I'm trying to mute him.
Okay.
All right, this is not the. Okay, there we go. Mr. Washington, did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Additional questions? We have additional questions. Please state your name. Doesn't appear we have any additional questions. There looks like there was a question in the chat from Allison. Allison, has your question been answered? Okay, it looks like Jose covered her question.
Yes,
Hello?
thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think she's trying to ask.
Hello?
LaShawn, I think Allison was trying to talk.
Okay. Okay.
Just saying, yes, it was answered.
Okay.
Thank you, Allison. Yes. Can you state your name, please?
If there's no more questions, this Ms. James again. I have one last question.
Miss James, somebody's trying to say hello. Oh, okay.
Okay, Ms. James, can you hold for just one moment?
Yes,
and let me just make sure that we don't have any additional questions.
I have a question.
And your name?
My name is Pamela Ferguson. I live in apartment 216.
Okay, go ahead and ask your question, Ms. Ferguson.
After the 2 years and RAD is completed and you apply for a housing choice voucher and you're able to get certificates, if a tenant here wants a certificate to move, but in the meantime they're unable to find a place that will accept their certificate based on any reason, whatever, are they still able to stay here at Judiciary House?
One moment, let me turn it on.
I can't hear you.
I'm
Give
good.
me just one moment. Let me mute the line. Okay. Alex, are you able to, is that something you're able to answer?
I think that's a housing choice voucher question.
I can take that. So yes, if you're, this is Aisha. So if you're not able to utilize your, or if you do come up or apply for a housing choice voucher, you should be able to remain in your unit. If that's what you're asking, you can stay on the property.
Informed in a meeting that during the first year that we could ask for housing choice vouchers. And if we receive one and we go out and try to find a place to accept it, but we're unable to, could we still remain at Judiciary?
That's correct. You can remain at Judiciary because you are not, you did not accept, you did not.
I can't even hear you. People are cross talk.
Okay. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yes, if you do receive a housing choice voucher after the year, you can, if you can utilize the voucher with somewhere else you would like to go to use the voucher. If you don't use the voucher, you can remain in your current unit.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Works for your schedule. Horizon.
Are there any more questions? Please state your name first.
I already have the
Okay.
we have offer letters from redevelopment that I can.
Okay, Ms. James, did you have one final question you wanted to ask?
Yes, ma'am. What funds can be done? What funds can be
One moment.
given?
Let me mute the line for you, Ms. James. 1 second. Caller 20. Okay, Ms. James, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead. The floor.
What funds does DCHA have for cable internet service for relocation? I've moved from one unit to another, and the providers are saying I have to pay out of pocket first. You all are saying you will give me the money back. I've already paid for my service at the other unit. Now I'm in a new unit, and I just have internet, and I pay that. But I'm inconvenienced because it's not wired. I don't have no phone jacks. And I have a medical alert that I have not been able to put up. So what can be done to be given not only myself, but the other residents that have already moved and been inconvenienced with their cable wirings and so forth? What monies do housing have to help assist us with our ongoing living conditions?
LaShawn, I'll take the first part of that. There was a plan in place to transfer utilities at DCHA's expense. We were going to cover that. I do not know what happened in your situation, ma'am, and that's unfortunate because we did make a commitment to take care of those transfer fees. Ms. Jeter, Ms. Jackson, or Mr. Poles, would anybody care to fill in the missing piece here?
So we can talk to her offline so we can dive more in depth with why she was charged a fee, and and then we can follow up with you to find out what the missing piece was and why it wasn't transferred, and we didn't cover that.
Not only for myself, but for all the residents that have moved from their unit, as well as moving into the other units. So maybe, Mr. Poles, if you would, get a census, and then we could see how we can get monies for all the residents for this building ongoing.
I'll speak with you after the meeting in regard to that.
Okay. Not only me now, Mr. Poles, there's other residents that are in the same predicament. I'm probably just one who's asking the question. But I do know of other residents that have been waiting for their money from housing that they have put in. That's why I don't have the funds to purchase for the inconvenience. But okay.
All right. Thank you, Ms.
y'all.
Jones.
Thank you.
Thank
Sorry.
you. And I shared your contact information with the individuals that said that they would follow up with you. So with that, if there are no additional questions, we can close the meeting. Alex or Jose, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we close?
Yeah, I'll just add that we're going to upload a video recording of this to the dcha.us/Judiciary House website. We'll also be transcribing all of the questions and answers, not just uploading it to the site, but also putting that back out to you all in the mail to be sent there, as well as the notice for the next meeting, which will be happening in August. So we really appreciate everyone participating today. I know there's a lot of questions. There is additional information that we can provide that helps answer some of those questions, but it is important to have your perspective here. And we do miss the ability to meet with you in person, but in the absence of trying to make sure we're trying to keep everyone safe and healthy, this is a way that we can keep moving forward to ensure that we can get the funds necessary to do the improvements that Judiciary you all are deserving of and that we are in pursuit of.
Agreed. Thank you, Jose. And just as a reminder, the voicemail box that was provided earlier and along with your resident information notice, if you have questions or comments, you can always leave a voicemail message and someone will return your call. The number is 202-996-8526, as well as the email address that was provided earlier during the presentation, which is transformationplan@dchousing.org. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you.
LaShawn, do you want us to stay on?